Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, I'm going to be looking at a weird deck that just did well at the Japanese National Championships. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The lovely David Hockman has been translating these decks that did well over in Japan. And I'm not going to be showing you Zoroark decks and Buzzwole decks. We know about Zoroark decks and Buzzwole decks. They're not, well, they are exciting. They're Pokemon decks. Pokemon decks are always exciting. But they're not new, and as somebody on some sitcom might say, new is always better. Drop a comment down below if you get that reference. So we're going to be talking about White Kyurem GX, a Pokemon which is going to be coming out in the upcoming Dragon Majesty expansion, which nobody's really particularly excited about. The Pokemon, not the expansion. The expansion's a lot of fun. But I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, it just did very well in Japan. It just got top 64 at their national championships, and it's very unusual. So let's take a quick gander, shall we? Now, it shouldn't surprise you, given that I keep saying White Kyurem, White Kyurem, White Kyurem, that this is all based around, wait for it, White Kyurem GX, a Pokemon that I was not particularly enamored with when I did my analysis video. I'll try and pop a link to that one in the description if I remember. But there are a bunch of things to like about it. It's got 190 HP up there with Buzzwole, better than 180. The weakness to Fairy technically means its weakness to Gardevoir, but Gardevoir's really not seeing that much play at the moment. It's just outclassed by the other decks. And now it is a Dragon type, which means you're not hitting anything for weakness, which sucks. And the retreat cost of 3 is quite high. But, you know, technically you have access to Heavy Ball, although this deck did not play Heavy Ball, so I suppose in that regard it's a slightly moot point. But do remember that Dragon decks have access to Mysterious Treasure, which is actually incredibly useful because, well, you just search out your Pokemon. It's kind of like an Ultra Ball, but you only discard 1 card from your hand rather than 2. If you don't want to be discarding, that's a lot of fun. So what does White Kyurem actually do? Well, our translation comes from the same place as our deck list. That's limitlesstcg.com and the lovely David Hockman. 1 fire energy, 40 damage, not affected by any effects on the defending Pokemon. So if something like a Dawnwing's Necrozma uses their GX attack, you can still attack them. Or, hypothetically, if Jolteon was still good, you could attack them after a Flash Ray. It's not a great attack, but, I mean, it's a 1 energy attack, which you will sometimes need. But the main attack here, for a Fire, Water, and a Colorless, 80 damage. If this Pokemon has any damage on it, this attack does 160. Now, 160 is an absolutely key number at the moment, because time you add a Choice Band, it then becomes 190, and then you're getting a 1-hit KO on something like a Buzzwole. Or you just leave it at 170 with a Fighting Fury Belt, and then you're getting a 1-hit KO on something like a Tapu Lele. Or interestingly enough, you could even get a Greninja Break here, though that's not terribly relevant at the moment. It's still an option. And this is your main attack. Now at this stage, we need to take a quick sidestep and have a little gander at the energy line in this deck. The energy line in this deck is, to put it bluntly, slightly unusual. We are playing 4 Double Dragon energy, and we are playing 4 Rainbow energy. And at this stage, we need to take a sidestep in our sidestep, and remember that in Japan, they are currently playing X and Y onwards, which means they have access to cards that we don't in our standard format. And although most of the extra cards they've got are kind of neither here nor there, they don't make a huge difference, there is one giant thing which we need to remember when looking at this deck in Japan, and that's Double Dragon Energy. And that will make a huge difference, ladies and gentlemen, because Double Dragon Energy is essentially what makes this viable in terms of speed. Now, don't get me wrong, if you don't have Double Dragon Energy, you can use Max Elixir, and we're going to have access to Zinnia. If one of your Pokemon was KO'd the previous turn, you may attach 2 extra energy from your hand to one of your Dragon Pokemon. And we're going to have Latias Prism Star, which accelerates energy 1 to each of your benched basic Dragon Pokemon from your discard. So there are options for getting this rolling without Double Dragon Energy. But none of them are as good as Double Dragon Energy. And essentially here, what you really want is one Double Dragon energy and one Rainbow energy. Because remember, this attack only does 160 if you've got some damage on White Kyurem. Which means you need to get some damage on there. Might I suggest Rainbow Energy? Rainbow Energy here has most certainly got yo back. And that's generally what you're aiming for here. It's a fairly straightforward deck in terms of, let's just get these two energy on a White Kyurem and go. Now there is a GX attack here. 4 energy, essentially 2 Double Dragon. 200 energy plus burn plus paralysis. The paralysis here is basically irrelevant. You'll be one-hit KOing pretty much anything. I mean, if you've got a Fighting Fury bout on there, you're actually even getting a one-hit KO on a Gardevoir. Time the burn damage comes in, which is pretty sweet. You'll use this once per game to get a big one-hit KO. Well, I should mention with Fighting Fury bout here as well, you do have a bit of extra bulk with this. That's very nice, especially when you're going down to 180. You can then go back up to 220. And I also do need to give a quick note here that we are playing 4 Double Dragon, 4 Rainbow. Now, I told you that. That's not the exciting thing right this second. What we need to worry about right this second is the fact that that is going to make you vulnerable, ladies and gentlemen. If we ever see something coming out like Xurkitree, for instance, you're going to struggle to do lots of damage, unfortunately. Boo, hiss, etc. Also, Enhanced Hammer's going to suck if you're playing against people playing lots of that. There was not just White Kyurem, you also play Garbodor, and it's a standard Garbodor kind of thing. You're playing 2 of the Ability Lock Garbodor to try and slow your opponent down, to give you time to get this rolling, but also Malamar's really big at the moment, so it kind of slows those decks down brilliantly. And it's just all about slowing down other decks and getting time to set up. Because if you get a couple of White Kyurem set up, you can run through all of your opponent's Pokemon. It's going to be hilarious. And then you have the other Garbodor, the one from Guardians Rising. Remember, you're playing Rainbow Energy, so you can attack with it. And you just sit and smash. And that's essentially the goal here. You just sit and smash with this. Either your opponent sets up slowly, in which case you should have time to use White Kyurem, or your opponent starts going really fast using lots of items and then Garbodor crushes. We also see 2 Tapu Lele because we need to get set up and Wonder Tag searches out our supporter cards. We see 1 Oricorio, which is purely a counter for Night March, because, you know, Night March is amazing still in that format. And we see 1 Buzzwole, because, you know, it's Buzzwole. It's a great counter against Zoroark for a single energy. And remember, you are playing Rainbow Energy. Ergo, you can get this rolling. It's the other cool thing about Rainbow Energy. You can attack with stuff like Buzzwole and Garbodor quite nicely. So you've got the hitting weakness on Zoroark, you've got the hitting weakness on stuff like Buzzwole, because, oh yeah, as well as being a good utility attacker, Garbodor hits Buzzwole for weakness. Then you've got White Kyurem. You're hitting weakness against arguably the 2 best Pokemon in the format, and you've got a big, strong attacker just to come in and mop up nicely. Now, in terms of supporters and all, we will run through them very quickly. We see a mixture of Professor Sycamore and N. They are just your draw cards to get up and rolling, although N can slow your opponent down if they take a fast start. We also see a copy of Cynthia as well. It's a great draw card. We see a copy of Guzma because KOing Pokemon that are on the bench, pretty important. And we see a copy of Teammates here, because if one of your Pokemon gets knocked out, then the next turn, you can come in with Teammates. Why is that important? You can search out stuff like Double Dragon Energy and Rainbow Energy, which is very important. Obviously, we're playing 4 versus Seeker because it's still legal and we can. You get to reuse supporters. It's amazing. Mysterious Treasure and Ultra Ball, like I've said, are great for searching out your Pokemon. But we also see Nest Ball here because you're playing a bunch of basics. You wouldn't use this for Tapu Lele because you wouldn't get the ability. But for searching out your Trubbish or your White Kyurem, it's pretty gosh darn nice. 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher to recover your Pokemon, especially if you need more than 1 of your Buzzwole, Garbodor, etc., or more than 2 of your Garbodor. We see 1 special charge because you are super reliant on special energy, so, you know, helps to be able to recover them. And 1 energy lotto because it also helps to be able to search them out. For Floatstone is important firstly for retreating, but also because you need a tool attached to Garbodor to turn on the ability, and Free Fighting Fury Belt again. It's nice to have the extra bulk on Kyurem, it's nice to have the extra damage because it can hit the numbers, but it can also go onto a Garbodor if you're desperate. Only one choice band, you do not want to put this onto a Garbodor, you really want to put this onto your Kyurem to get a big KO. And then we see 3 copies of Parallel City, because like so many decks, Garbodor decks as well, if there isn't a particular stadium you want to play, this can slow down and frustrate your opponent and is worth a look. Cuts them down to 3 bench spaces. Malamar decks hate having their bench restricted, because they really need a whole bunch of Pokemon to set up. Zoroark decks hate having their bench restricted because they need to do lots of damage. This does both of them. And between the big one-hit KOs that White Kyurem is bringing, and the Buzzwole to occasionally counter Zoroark if they've got 4 prizes remaining, and the Garbodor to turn off their abilities and to hit them if they use too many items, and to just hit stuff like Buzzwole, and the stuff like Parallel City, you can see why this deck works. Maybe you can use it in Standard soon with stuff like Zinnia and Latias Prism Star. Maybe it's only for Expanded, but if it works in Japan's format, against decks like Buzzwole, like Zoroark, like Night March, I don't see any reason it wouldn't work in our expanded format over here, so maybe give it a go sometimes. And tell me what you think about it in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter @TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. And do check out my video game/Dragon Ball Super channel, Wasi Plays. We recently did a video about Microsoft's E3 press conference and an opening of very recent, very new Dragon Ball Super product, so go check that out. I would be delighted. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.